The map is not like being there. It's like mountains coming out from the ground like sprouts all around you. Tall mountains everywhere you look. He says, you know, those mountains are making the world stable because Mecca is the center of the world.
That's right.
Which it is. If you want to go to the center of the earth, think about that old movie, Journey to the Center of the World. It's in Mecca, geographically speaking. He said, oh, but Allah has put these mountains between the center of the world to keep it steady. So as we continue to share information in Islam, the lively art of conversation, that's what we were participating in. And you know how Suki can do. He can tell jokes and have you cracking up. And I explained to Suki that I've been trying to read The Life of Muhammad by Washington Irving for maybe 25 years. Because he says, well, why haven't you finished it? I said, Suki, every time I try to finish it, I cry like a baby. The way he suffered. And then when I read it, I see so much of me there. I see, when I read it, I see some of my suffering. Not to be compared with his, but it's like a strange relationship that I can't really put into words, but I cry like a baby. If I try to finish the first chapter, I'm crying like a baby. I can't catch my breath. Why? Because Muhammad, like the Prophet Noble Ali, suffered.
That's right.
I mean, these brothers, I mean, you're talking about suffering. It's no glory in being the hero of the day. Right. It's no glory in saying, well, I'm the great leader, follow me. I'm this, I'm that. Oh, I'm the great leader. It's no glory in that. There's prestige in that, and that prestige comes from the people who decide that you deserve that prestige, Islam. Not you. But many say, oh, I'm the leader, look at me, I am so great, and it's no glory in being a leader. It's no glory in being a prophet like that, where you want people to notice what you're doing. You know, because I used to think that way as a small boy. Oh, I'm the leader of my classroom. I'm the leader of the spelling bee. Ha, 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 hey, oh. But when you talk about leading the people and being an example for the people, and you are, as the prophets say, you realize that this authority was not given to you for yourself itself, but for the good of the people. This is a different ballgame. Because now you have the responsibility of the ingenuity of the salesman, the people who have different things that they can offer the nation. And you have the responsibility of guiding. So as a grand sheikh or a minister, many of you are sheikhs, it's more validation in doing for the people than saying, look at me. Islam? It's more validation that way, is what I see. So Muhammad, being one of Allah's divine prophets, never looked for that. He was too busy helping the people. And I was telling him in the book I read, the different Canaanite tribes before they were called Arabians, because they had become so clandestine, which means they became so self-centered in their own little groups and cliques. Excuse me, and they amassed a lot of power, especially in merchandising, because they were very successful merchants. They had band together to stop Muhammad because his teachings of bringing Islam back to the people was hurting their pockets. The same as Jesus, the same as the Prophet Noble Ali. The same thing. Because when the prophet came in and all those Moors started coming out of them churches, it was hurting their pockets. And he tells Lomax Bay in the letter, there's a certain movement coming from the ministers. Men both paid and bought. Yeah, to bring me down. And you don't never know who's who, because your intentions are so pure. Your intentions are, oh, I gotta help the people. I have a responsibility in giving my life as a willing sacrifice for the people. And you don't know who's who. So some of those tribes, and the Jews too, they were very, very offended. They waited till, I can't say this too more, perhaps later, when you adults, the things they tried to do to Muhammad. And were very unsuccessful in doing that. But he suffered. The prophet suffered. The prophet, when the prophet got out of jail, and as the old Moors told me as I was a young boy, he had a flower box, like a box, like a wooden box in front of the window, which was very common in those days. I think some of the women had them in their bedroom, they call them hope chests. But they put things in there, you know, when they get married, I hope to be married, is some blankets. Anyway, he would lay on top of that as the sun came through the window. And when he took his last breath on that window box, they pushed him off because they thought he was sleeping on the window box because the window box was full of his money. They didn't care about our prophet, some of who were there, close to him. They pushed him off and opened it up looking for money. And he loved them. He called all of us children, but he suffered. So sometimes for me, like some of the Moors I came up with were so serious about Moorish science. When I read something like that about the Prophet Muhammad, and I can relate to our Prophet Noble, it's overwhelming for me. And the reason why it's overwhelming for me is because I care. When you care, it's overwhelming. If you don't care, it don't faze you. So those Moors, listen. You got to accept the prophet just as he is. You can't accept the mere ideas of man. It is what it is. And I don't care who you are, how big and tall you are, how many people you got with you, how many guns you got in your hand, how many swords, how many knives, how many threats I get. Allah is God and Noble Jawad is his prophet. I don't care if you don't like it. And he didn't say that. He said this. Now what you gonna do? Hit me in the lip? You better make sure it's a good hit, because I'm coming back strong. I believe in doing unto others as you have them doing to you. You hit me, that means you want me to do that to you. And I'm gonna do it to you. 2 times. So I just wanted to share that with you about Siddiq. You know, the conversation between us and our Muslim brothers and sisters around the world, if you really think about it, it could be very enjoying. It could be expressed as the lively art of conversation, because we have more in common than we have things uncommon. And if we talk about those things in Islam that we have in common, it's a joyful conversation. Islam, giving honor to the American flag, the flag of the United States of America, giving honor to the Moorish flag, the red flag, the 5-pointed green star in the center, giving honor to our ancient ancestors, the ancient Moabites, whom founded the holy city of Mecca. I think one day we all should go there. That'd be a good trip for us to get on the plane, fly over there with our fezzes and turbans on. He said, Suki was telling me they have rebuilt Mecca to the point that it can take over several million people. It won't be crowded. He says to me, in conclusion of our conversation, He said everybody was just so happy, treat everybody so nice. You know, when you go to Mecca, you can't wear no shoes. You have to be in there barefoot. They will not let you wear shoes because it's sacred ground. So I can only envision the Moorish Americans coming in strong, black turbans and fezzes on. Islam, Drew Ali, Islam, Drew Ali, Islam, Drew Ali. I give honor to each and every one. Islam. As you can see, we have our microphone, and I love it. I started speaking on a microphone at 12 years old. I had microphone training. So those of you who are going to be speaking later on, remember to adjust your tone on the microphone. And if you need training, see Brother Coleman here. Tonight I'm going to read from the Divine Ministry, chapter 15. Divine Ministry of Jesus. Jesus goes to the wilderness for self-examination, where he remains 40 days. Is subject to 3 temptations. He overcomes, returns to the camps of John, and begins teaching. You know, when Jesus was 12 years old, and if you recall chapter 5, where he couldn't be found, and his mother and his father were really worried about him because he was a boy. He was only 12 years old. But that's considered a boy going into man. He was only 12 years old. But he did not disrespect his parents as much as he was recognized his divine presence and his duty to mankind. And when his mother finally found him and asked about his goings, she said, you know, I was worried about you. We feared some great harm had come to you. After all, you are my son, and it's natural for a mother to worry you. You're just a boy. And remember his answer, he says, do you not know I must be about my Father's work? Which is a position that he took until he had to really examine himself, because he had been buffered by many demonstrations up until this point when he was doing self-examination. And that's the same kind of position that we have to take. We have to take that same position. With our mothers, with our fathers, with our loved ones. Because this, what we do, is divine work. And there should be no human being to interfere with our divine work. Intentionally. Because what happens if they do, they're having bad markings on their character when judgment day comes for them. You cannot rightfully, reasonably interfere with divine work. They have to convince you that what we are doing is not divine work. This is divine work.
Speak to the people, brother.
And when you're doing divine work, you have to be forward with that. Do you not know I must be about my Father's work? Now, I love you, mother, I love you, father, but this is divine work. This is divine work. Right. This is going to carry you through and me as well. And I'm doing it without asking for nothing back in return.
Yes.
This is divine work. One time, I was inspecting a place across the street from the Salon Restaurant on 79th Street. The commanding officer said, go in there, that's a complaint, that's a bad place. And I went in there and they said, no, the Nation of Islam owns this. And we got our printed press here. And they did. I said, well, I'm going to write this down because there's not anything else going on in here. And as I was leaving, the young brother, he says, you know, I'm not from Chicago. There's 2 of them. But the young brother caught me at the door. He says, you know, I'm not from Chicago. I I said, where you from? He said, I'm from Pennsylvania. I said, you a long ways from home. What about your mother and father? He said, this is divine work. I said, what? He said, this is a divine work. I'm on a roll for Allah. He said it was such zeal and fever, I could feel it permeating my bones all down my spine. And I got to thinking about Jesus when he told his mother, do you not know I must be about my Father's work? Our Father's work is divine work. It's divine work. And since we are all children of Allah, we must be about Allah's work. We must do it. It don't matter what they say. It don't matter what they do. We got to do our divine work. And we got to do it in peace and harmony. We got to do it. I tell my wife, and I don't holler, don't get in my way when I'm doing divine work. I tell them one thing, don't call me on the phone when I'm doing divine work. Wait till I get home, unless it's an emergency. Because I'm doing divine work. Get out my way. This will help you, hopefully, because you should be doing divine work too. What's wrong with you? And then when the brother asks his queen, what's wrong with you? When that young brother told me that, the way he told me, I could feel it all in my chest bone. So, he's right. I don't care about leaving Pennsylvania or my mother and my father. This is divine work. This work is divine. The angels on each shoulder is writing all this down because I know in my heart bone that I've been choosing to do some divine work like this. And I challenge any human being to tell me and convince me that something's wrong with what I'm doing. Can't do it. Because our purpose is to uplift fallen humanity. What are we doing that's so wrong? By waking up the people? By telling them they have a nationality and divine creed? By practicing, proclaiming our nationality and our divine principles? What's wrong with that? This is divine work. Everything we do, if you do your work in divine, if you do this demonstration in a divine vein, this divine work, blessings will come to you. You be living and don't know how you live. Right. So how am I living like this? Because you're doing divine work. The prophet said, if you lose your life in doing what I told you to do, I will give it back to you. And I believe him. That's why I ain't scared of nothing. I don't care who you are. I don't care how many of it is y'all. And I don't care what kind of weapons you got. Take me. Because I'm coming back. And I'm going to get each and every one of you. One at a time.
That's right.
Because I'm demonstrating some divine work. The prophets say this is spiritual. All this is spiritual. It's hard for you to see because you're looking through the murkiness of the flesh. You're involved in what it takes to maintain this vessel here called the human flesh. Because that's what it is, a vessel. It's a vessel for the spirit who's pushing you to do some divine work. The harbinger had paved the way. The logos had been introduced to men as love made manifest. And he must now begin his divine ministry. And he went forth into the wilderness to be alone with Allah, that he might look into his inner heart and know his strength and worthiness. And with himself, he talked. He said, my lower self is strong. By many ties I am bound down to carnal life. Do you know what it is to have a strong lower self? Many of us have a strong lower self. So if we let anger take us over, you don't want to see that part of us. You don't want to see that. If we allow anger to consume us, and we allow our lower self to take part or to take action, you realize how strong your lower self can really be. Especially if you are protecting your loved ones. You will realize. And when Jesus says, he realized that his lower self was strong. And when you say lower self, it's many avenues to the lower self. Many different paths to the lower self. But if we let that take over us, because only we can allow that, it's something you don't want to see. That's why when you look in the history books of some of our ancient forefathers who demonstrate Baal and Chemosh, they were demonstrating their lower self. They called us little devils. So they did. All those little devils. Because they let their lower self overrule them. But he said, my lower self is strong. By many ties I am bound down to carnal life. This is the reason why it's difficult for us to see the spiritual work that's going on. Because carnal life has us asphyxiated, so to speak. Gotta eat breakfast, gotta go do this, gotta do that. It's a carnal life. These things can be resolved when we have better economic security. Then we can really demonstrate the what? The genuine spiritualities of life. So you can see the spirituality much better when you don't have to worry about how am I going to pay this bill? How I'm going to have some food to eat? What about the clothes on my back? Have I the strength to overcome and give my life a willing sacrifice for men? But I shall stand before the face of men, and they demand a proof of my messiahship. What will I say? And then the tempter came and said, If you be the son of Allah, command these stones to turn to bread. And Jesus said, who is it that demands a test? It is no sign that one is a son of Allah because he does a miracle. The devils can do mighty things. Did not the Gentile magicians do great things before the Pharaoh? My words and deeds in all the walks of my life shall be proof of my messiahship. That's what the prophet wants from each and every one of us. He don't want us to just talk it. He wants us to walk it. Words and deeds. How they say it? Show your love. Words and deeds. See, great men and women don't sit down and think about it without doing it. And the greatness can be measured on how well we demonstrate what the prophet Noble Durali has instructed us to do for ourselves and for our people. Procrastination and vacillation is something that we don't want. This is something that was carried over from the Negro when we were marked as Negroes. Well, I get around to it. Well, yeah, we sit around and we amuse ourselves about what we should be doing or what we could do. Well, yeah, I should be doing, and just take ourselves to some kind of fantasy. I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it, and don't never do it. That's called procrastination. That's what that's called. You're procrastinating. The prophet Noble Durali has inspired us with devotion to get up and do it. That's why you find successful business people are successful, because they don't wait to do something tomorrow that they can do today. And then the tempter said, if you will go into Jerusalem, and from the temple pinnacle cast down yourself to earth, why, the people will believe you are the Messiah sent from out. This you can surely do. For did not David say he gives his angels charge concerning you? And with their hands will they uphold, lest you shall fall. Why would David say that? Well, how would Jesus know that David said that? Because that was his last name, if he was going to have a last name. That was his forefather. He came out of the house of David. And this was long promise that his angels would give him